So I take it that most of the Humanist Report's politically astute viewers tuned in to last week's State of the Union address, the first one for President Donald Trump. And if you really hate yourself, then you probably also tuned into the Democratic Party's response given by none other than rising star, quote, rising star, emphasis on the quotations, Joe Kennedy. And as you could have predicted, neoliberals across the country fell immediately in love with him. They were smitten by him, making Harris Kennedy 2020 images and sharing them on Twitter, posting pictures of them together as a sort of dream team. Now, if you are one of the individuals on the Harris Kennedy 2020 or the Joe Kennedy 2020 train, you should probably get off that train immediately because Joe Kennedy barely qualifies as a liberal. Not only is he a trust fund baby and one of the richest members of Congress with an estimated worth of $18 to $43 million, he also has invested in, you guessed it, pharmaceutical companies that rip off American citizens. So he literally has a vested interest in seeing that their profits rise. And they've also donated more than $350,000 to his super PAC over the course of his career, and over $50,000 in this election cycle alone. Also, his big donors include Bank of America, Bain Capital, Raytheon, among others, with nearly 20% of his overall contributions coming from super PACs. That's all unaccountable dark money. And if his donors didn't give you enough reasons to reject him, then his policies alone should, because I don't even know why he considers himself a liberal. He's just conservative. Not only is he against the legalization of marijuana, he voted against a law that would protect medical marijuana patients. He supports warrantless spying. He's against Medicare for all. He's against college for all. So when I think of Joe Kennedy, I think of a neoliberal conservative who incorrectly registered as a Democrat when really he belongs in the Republican Party. However, when people like Joyanne Reid think of Joe Kennedy, they think, oh, that's presidential material right there. Because he actually appeared on her show recently. And after they joked around a little bit, he talked about how he wasn't getting much sleep because of the new baby that him and his wife just had. She cut to the chase. Joe, when are you running for president? And it was as pathetic as you could possibly imagine. The first question she asked, take a look.
You accepted last week one of the most unsought after gigs in politics, and that's giving the State of the Union response. It always goes wrong in some way or another. I think the question on everybody's minds, you having accepted that gig, is, are you running for president in 2020?
I beg your pardon? Because that wasn't on my mind at all. Giving one speech that is completely bereft of substance, nothing but platitudes, that doesn't make someone qualified to run for president. I don't know why you would suggest that that's even a qualification to begin with. And his speech came off as painfully out of touch, but of course Democrats loved him because he spoke directly to dreamers in Spanish. But as congressional candidate Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez pointed out, I know fellow Democrats love to flex Spanish and do the yo soy Tim Kaine thing, but this is a bit tone deaf. Dreamers speak English. They've been here since childhood. The whole point is they're American. Yeah. And the fact that that even has to be said makes you really feel bad about the state of politics in America. I mean, this isn't Oprah level of pathetic, but this is still pathetic. He obviously is not qualified to run for president because he gave a response to the State of the Union address. He's not qualified because he spoke Spanish. That doesn't make someone qualified. And thankfully, when he responded to Joyanne Reid, he shot down the idea that he was interested in running.
No, I am not. Look, I was honored to have been selected. It was not something I was anticipating or expected by any means. But honored that Leader Pelosi and Senator Schumer thought that I might be able to put forth a message that I think Democrats can get behind, and I've been encouraged by the resonance that the words have gotten. And I've learned the tough lesson, too, that sometimes less chapstick is more.
I was going to ask if your wife gave you the business over that. But listen, the fact
a lot of other people did.
A lot of people did.
So it's a no. Now, he went on to joke about wearing too much chapstick, which I actually thought was droll when I first saw it, because if you're going to wear chapstick, you put it on your lips. You don't smear it all over your fucking face like he did. But at least it wasn't a tonsil stone, so regardless, he said no. But if you thought that Joyanne Reid would stop asking about this and move on to the more substantive issues, maybe asking about policy, maybe ask him why he's taking so much money from Big Pharma and has invested his own personal money into Big Pharma. She didn't. She pushed the envelope further, asking him again if he's going to run for president.
You also got a lot of kudos for, among other things, speaking directly to dreamers, et cetera. And the fact that the leadership chose you to give that response means that at least some folks in the Democratic Party, in the Democratic world, think of you as a potential leader of the party and a potential candidate. So is it a categorical no on 2020, or is it something that you're at least considering?
It is not something I'm considering.
That right there shows you just how desperate mainstream media pundits are to draft as many corporatists, neoliberals as they can, basically to make sure that Bernie Sanders is drowned out in the 2020 primary. Anybody but Bernie. Anybody but a real progressive. This is just really embarrassing. Not even for Joe Kennedy, but for Joy Ann Reid. I mean, do you not have any standards? Really? Do you know anything about Joe Kennedy? Have you done a single Google search? Have you looked up his financial contributors? How could you even process this idea in your head and then ask if he's going to run for president? I mean, it makes no sense to me. But at the end of the day, you could put lipstick on a pig, or in this case, chapstick on a neoliberal, and they still don't give a shit about you. So no, Joe Kennedy should not run for president, and neither should Julian Castro, who also stated that he is definitely interested in running for president. No, if you don't actually care about policy, if you're running because you're an opportunist, then you shouldn't run to be president. We need someone who's going to represent us. The last time a neoliberal ran and won the Democratic primary, it wasn't that long ago, if you all remember, she lost to a reality TV show star. So this time, if you're going to try to beat Trump, let's actually do it the right way. Do it with policy. But of course, I don't know what I was expecting from neoliberal corporate Democrats, because they're never going to change.
Support this podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Humanist Report.